everyone, it's Lisa from My Dream in Soap. Welcome to my channel. Now it's soap challenge time again today, and for this challenge we had to do a Nautilus Swirl. So basically a Nautilus Swirl is really just doing a Taiwan swirl in a soap and then doing a circular swirl in the middle of it. So what I've got here is quite a lot of colours, and the reason for this is that with the winners category in the soap challenge, we had to do a Nautilus Swirl using at least 6 colours. So let me just quickly run through these colours for you. In here I've got a mixture of Clementine Pop from Pure Rock Colours and Terracotta Red from Mica Mama. In this one I've just got some Clementine Pop on its own. So this is going to be a lighter orange and this is going to be a much more reddy orange. I've got some Sunshine Yellow in here from Mica Mama. Some just good old plain titanium dioxide in here. I've got Emerald Shimmer, so that's a nice bright green in here, and that's from Mica Mama. And I've got Antique Silver in here, again from Mica Mama. So those are all my colours that I'm using, and that gives me my 6. We're also allowed to do a mica drizzle. Now if we do a drizzle, we can also put like little soap shreds in as well if we want. Those additions don't count towards our colours, so this would have to be an addition. And this is Golden Shimmer from Mica Mama. Now one of the issues I've got is to do a Nautilus Swirl. It starts off basically like a Taiwan swirl, and I've only got a mould with 4 dividers in, or can go down to, well, 4 segments. It can go down to 3 segments if I flip that round. So it does mean that in at least one of these segments I've got to pour multiple colours to get all 6 colours in. So therefore I will actually be doing some different ways of pouring them into those segments. Now this is a technique that needs a nice fluid swirl so that it swirls nicely. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to disperse all of these micas in oil. You could do this in a lightweight oil like olive oil. I'm just going to do it by using a little bit from my batch oils, just so I'm not adding anything extra to my soap. So I'm just going to pop a little bit in. I don't measure it, I just blob a bit in. And then what I'm going to do is just mix each of these in so they're nicely dispersed. I'll come back when I've done that. Let's start to get this soap made. So I've got my lye solution and my sodium lactate in here. Now my oils were a little bit hotter than I'd have liked, but my lye solution was fairly cool. So I'm sure as I mix these in, they're going to be kind of where I need them. Let's have a look. 95 degrees, not too bad. Normally for a swirl like this, I'd sort of like between 80 and 90. So ideally a little bit cooler than that, but I think that's hopefully think it's going to be okay. Now what I'm going to do before I start blending that up is I'm going to weigh all of that, because I know how I want to split it out, sort of what's going to have what amount. So I'm just going to weigh this and then I can actually do the calculations. Okay, so that's weighed out now, and I've worked out all my calculations of how I want to split it. I always do mine by weight, but if you just wanted to pour amounts in pots, then that would be fine. So let's get this very lightly blended up, and it's going to take me a little time to split this all off and get those colours mixed in. So I don't want to overdo it with this. Okay, I think that's going to do me for now. I don't think it's properly emulsified yet, but we'll get that going and sorted out once we've got it all divided up. So as long as I keep stirring it and mixing it well, it should be fine. I'm just going to get these amounts weighed out. so those are all my colours all weighed out. Now, these little pots that I'm using, I don't tend to, or very, very rarely use, you know, disposable coffee cups or anything. These are just the bottom of where I've had some bottles, you know, the bottles that sometimes you'll get lie in or something like that from a soap supplier or oils. I clean them out thoroughly and then I just chop the bottom of the bottle off, and they make great containers when you only need small bits of soap. And the good thing about them as well is they're quite squeezy, so it gives you a nice pouring funnel. So I'm just gonna get these colours stirred in nicely. Okay, so that's all my colours stirred in. Now, one thing I need to be careful of is we have to make sure we use 6 different colours. And doesn't mean we have to use 6 different micas. So, for example, here I've used Clementine Pop twice, but here I've added some red to it. But I do want to make sure that these are different enough so that they will show up as different colours. At the moment, they look a bit close, but oranges and yellows do fade a little bit in cold process. I don't know, I might just add a tiny bit of titanium dioxide to that, just to lighten it a little bit. So they're not massively different, but I think they're different enough. Because I do want a sort of a paler light orange and a stronger reddy orange, and certainly looking at those, I think they're sort of different enough. Let's hope so anyway. Okay, now this at the moment is a little bit too runny. I'm not entirely sure if it's properly emulsified. So what I'm going to do for a little while is just give these a stir, and then I'm just going to check to make sure I've got an emulsion on them before I go any further. So I'm just going to be doing that and waiting until they're ready to pour, and then we'll come back and actually do the pour. Let's get this fragrance oil added in then. Oh, and this is Orange Zest. It's a fragrance originally from Sensory Perfection in the UK, but now it's sold by Grace Fruit because Sensory Perfection is no longer here. Okay, so just going to get that mixed in. Okay, I'm just getting them all a very quick mix straight away to disperse it a bit, and then I'm just going to spend a little bit of time getting them mixed thoroughly. Now this green, can you see, it's got a bit of a yucky dark green. Greens typically do that, but it will be nice and bright in the final soap. Let's get prepared for my pour. Now for my grey and white, I want to do both of those in the same section in the mould. So what I'm going to do with those is pour them both into the same jug. Whoop. Stand up. Now it's unlikely to form a beautiful straight line in the divided part of the mould, but hopefully they won't mix together too much. So that's my plan for those. Okay, let's just move that carefully out of the way. This dark orange is just going in on its own. This yellow is going to have my golden shimmer mica line, and then these two I'm going to put in, pour one bit, then another, then one bit, and then another, and sort of alternate them so I get little blocks. Right, let's get this mould in. So I need to think about how to pour these first because I don't want to disturb one pattern when I do another. So quite easily I think I can pour my dark orange in first. Okay. What else can do? I could certainly do my yellow with my mica in it. So what I'm going to do with this is just, as I start to pour this, I'm going to add a little bit of this mica just as a mica line to the top. And then pour this one in here. Okay, so just on the top. Right, and then let's get these fiddly ones in. So I now want my white and grey to go in here. Okay, that's done pretty well staying separate. Doesn't matter that there's a jaggedy line, that will all be smoothed out in the swirl. And then lastly, my green and light orange combo. I'm just going to turn that round so I can get to it a bit better. Okay, shimmy that a bit. Right, they all look pretty even actually, so that's good. Okay, so now I need to pull these dividers out. Now, I deliberately haven't gone right to the top of the soap because this is going to be cut horizontally, so I'm not actually doing a full soap bar height, as it were. Okay, now you could spend a lot more time scraping off those dividers, but I'm obviously wary about the timing. I don't want this to set up. Don't forget to take those end bits out. I tend to scrape these off and just use it as a little sample soaps. That works really well. Okay. So now we need to swirl it. So we need to start off with a Taiwan swirl. Now I'm starting with a fairly thin swirl tool. It may not be thick enough, so I may change it if I don't seem to be dragging enough soap. Actually, I think that looks okay. I'm going to stick with this. So there's my Taiwan swirl bit done. And then for the Nautilus swirl, these are going to be horizontal bars. So this is going to be the face of the soap. What I've done is I've divided my soap mould into 4 because I'll get 4 bars out of this. And I'm just going to pop my little ruler on top just to guide me. And what we want to do is start from the outside and just swirl in a circle round. So I'm going to, I don't know, start at the top. And then come out at the middle. I am going to try something a tiny bit thicker for the Nautilus swirl. And each time I'm coming off and I'm cleaning off my swirl tool. Okay, so there we are. Okay, I think that's quite pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this away to C-pop now. It definitely needs to go through gel because of the colours I've used. And what should happen is that green should really start to literally pop out with its colour. Okay, so I'm just going to cover that up and we'll see what we've got when I cut it, either tomorrow or the next day, something like that. Here we are with our Nautilus soap the next day, and can you see those oranges have come out quite different, which is great, which is what I was expecting, because they were worryingly similar in the pots, but as you can see, it's that pure orange. The clementine pot faded slightly. Oranges and yellows do fade when you C-pop them, and this one, because I boosted it with the terracotta red, has given me more of a reddy, almost a brick, sort of red brick orange colour, and that green has popped out really nicely as well. Now to cut this we need to have it horizontal, so that means that the face of the bar will be the bits that you can see, but I've made mine 2 bars thick. Now you can do this with a loaf cutter, but if you don't have a loaf cutter it doesn't matter, you can just use your single wire cutter or even a knife, that's absolutely fine. So let's do how we would do it with that. I'm going to use my Caterpillar from Custom Craft Tools just because that's kind of what I've got. So the first thing you want to do is you want to, it doesn't matter if you turn it up on its side like this or have it flat, is you've got to cut it into as many chunks as you want to get your bar of soap. So imagine that's the face of your bar of soap. So how I planned mine was to get 4 bars. So I'm just going to cut this into 4 chunks. So I've marked them out already. Okay, so the first cut is just to literally go through and cut this soap into chunks. And I say this would be easy to do with a single wire cutter, or if you had a knife, if that's all you've got, that's going to work well too. Okay, so those are my 4 chunks, and it's got the swirls in the centre of each one, which is what I wanted, which is how I planned it when I swirled it. And then, because I poured mine 2 bars thick, I'm just going to turn it on its side and slice through the middle there. Now, if you wanted to have a go at this, then there's no reason you couldn't pour either thicker, so you could make it 3 bars thick, fill up your whole mould. You could just do it 1 bar thick. That would work too. Now they're not going to look much different inside than we've got on the outside, but it's always interesting to see how the soap sort of changes its work as it goes through the loaf. Okay, so let's have a look at our first one. Oh, there we are. It's come out really pretty, hasn't it? That green's really come out. And there's my second two. And then my last ones. So there we are. So that's quite a pretty technique. Does give quite a good effect with those soaps. And certainly something that's not too difficult to do, as long as you can get your soap batter reasonably fluid. You don't want to be using a fragrance oil that makes your soap batter accelerate, and you want to be making sure that you don't overly blend your soap batter. But yeah, apart from that, I think it was actually quite a nice straightforward swirl to do, and it does give a pretty bar of soap. And I'll just leave you with a final photo of the soap. These soaps will be ready and all cured in a couple of weeks' time. If you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, I always put a notification up when soaps are available in the shop. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and you like the soap. If you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy soaping!